Can you all let me know if I'm visible and if my screen is visible as well, please? That's great. Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you so much for joining and welcome to this Microsoft Purview and Defender Days. I really appreciate spending your weekend with us, right? And it's going to be a complete awesome day where we are going to spend having discussions, speaking about the security track, right? And how important it is playing with the role of AI today over the complete ecosystem of whatever you work with. You think about, probably you come from infra background, or you think about just from Microsoft 365, or you say you're from a SharePoint, something like that, right? They're gonna we're gonna make a huge kind of knowledge transfer discussions coming over these complete back-to-back track sessions where we are about to speak on Defender and Purview as well today. So thanks again for joining. And here is something that you have excited. So do be with us for the entire day, and you might be one of a guy who is going to be winning this goodie as well, right? And you would be having a quiz as well by the end of the tracks today. Both the tracks, right? So before we wind up for the day, we're going to have a quick, exciting quiz opportunity, and you would be one of a guy who can win any of these goodies as well. So, yes, you might be familiar with me, or this is the first time we are connecting as well. But I mean, like it depends. I have been with this Purview days right from the start of the session where we have been initiating this, be like the three editions and the episodes that we have been running across. So I'm here, Abdul Rashid Froska, and I'm a Microsoft MVP, and I'm also a MCT community lead for India. And I run a company called Code Sizzler, which is based out of India and Middle East, and we are Copilot accelerators. We are Microsoft preferred partners as well on developing agents for GSI partners of Microsoft specifically. So that's in short about me, and there goes my LinkedIn connect as well, where you can go ahead, you can try connecting with me, and in case if you have any questions or anything, feel free to keep me reached out, right? And I do love networking, so I would be more than happy to have a quick connect with you people and take forward of the discussions what we can have it over the session as well. Well, I have a short time, so let me quickly go on to the topic. I'm going to be spending this probably in the next 45 minutes, right, or the 40 minutes that I'm going to speak about sensitivity labels, right? So you have something called, you're going to do a labeling to keep your data to be protected over the purview, and we will make sense about why this is going to be super important for us. And we will also make sense about how you can do this with a quick demo there. So the outline is going to be a couple of things, making sense about what is label, how sensitive it is, how important it is, right, when you work with Microsoft Purview. And followed by that, we're going to have a quick demo to make sense about how you can do that. Well, so I want to start the discussion with this slide or the headline tag where I want to say rising the demand for data protection. The external threats, right? So this is going to be the front door. We all know the cyber attacks and the ransomware, which is becoming more sophisticated, often leveraging the AI themselves to find vulnerabilities. And this is the traditional fortress that we have been building for years. It also has, like, you have an internal mirror, the insider risks that comes across. So this is often the most overlooked area. So not all the risks are set to be finger crossed. I mean, a well-meaning employee sharing a sensitive document, with the help of a personal link is just as dangerous to compliance. And we need visibility to how the data moves within our walls. And then comes, like, the compliance requirements. I mean, I would say this is a regulator, right? We have GDPR, we have CCPA, and we do have, like, the industry specific regulations, I mean, like, which are not slowing down. The increasing regulatory requirements mentioned here means that a single data leak doesn't just cost you the data, so it costs you massive fines and legal standing as well. And yes, of course, we are dealing a lot with the AI security risks, right? So that's like a, let me say, a new frontier that we have. So this is the hottest topic today. So as we rush to adopt the tools like Copilot, right, we face a new risk called data oversharing. So if an employee asks an AI to summarize a meeting, and that AI has access to sensitive HR or financial data, it should not. That's a massive security gap, right? So we might secure the inputs and the outputs of AI that you're going to give it across over there. So these are like the major, I would say, the headline tags that we have been seeing in the current scenario of where we have been working around. And that's said to be, the challenge where we need to manage the sensitive data. So as I said before, the organizations today operate across a complex web of cloud services, devices, and let me say the collaboration platforms as well. So protecting sensitive data is, let's say, it's no longer a one size that fits all, right? It's like a task that's because of the four primary challenges that I have listed here. I would say the key challenges are like the data is everywhere. So information lives in emails. It can be from your storage, it can be from your blob or something, right? It can be from your endpoints, and now critically, it can be within the AI tools that we are using nowadays. And we do have like cross-platform collaboration, so the data does not stay static. The files will constantly move both inside and outside the organization's boundaries. And we do have like security, the security versus the usability that we come across. So the friction, right? The friction problem. The security controls must be robust, and it should be invisible enough that they don't slow down the employee productivity. And yes, the limited visibility is that's something which I want to say. It's like the most organizations struggle to see exactly where this sensitive data resides, or let's say how it is being used in real time, right? So to overcome all these things, we have been to understand an important information framework, right? Information protection framework, I would say. So this slide is where I want to land up showing the four pillar approach to the information protection that's all powered by a unified intelligent platform with Microsoft. So the first thing is that you need to know your data. We can scan, right? We can scan your hybrid environment to discover, and let's say I want to classify, right? I want to classify the sensitive information, and you can't protect what you can't see, right? So you need to know your data first, and the second thing is that you need to uh, protect your data, I would say. So we apply the right controls. Think about encryption, right? Think about access restrictions. Think about visual markings that we do. So this is based on the classification that we have. And thirdly, preventing the data loss. So we monitor for risky behavior in real time, stopping accidental oversharing before it happens. And finally, governing your data. So we automate retention and deletion as well to meet the compliance requirements throughout the data lifecycle that we have. So everything sits on, let's say, everything sits on an intelligent platform that unifies your classification, your policy management, and analytics. So this framework ensures that there's a consistent protection across all the four pillars that we have there. So I want to go with that, making sense about classifying the data for the data protection. So as of now, you might have an understanding that why this is important, why data protection is important, right? Let's go dive deeper to make sense about the data protection and the governance that we do across. So Microsoft Purview goes with multiple ways to classify the data here. So why do we need to classify the data? It's pretty simple, right? So we can apply the right protections based on sensitivity, based on I mean the classification helps us reduce the exposure, meet the compliance requirements, and guide everything that follows, right? Like let's say encryption or access restrictions, anything. So the purview gives us two major ways to classify. One is said to be the SIT, right? The sensitive information types. These detects, I mean, these this will detect the structured patterns that we have. I would say think about the credit card numbers, right? Think about the credit card numbers. Think about the passport IDs or social security numbers, right? So they are said to be patterns based, and they are precise as well. And then the trained classifiers, the trainable classifiers. So that's the second thing. I mean, these identified unstructured content is said to be analyzed by the meaning and the context. So it's not just the keywords. Uh, for an instance, I would say they can recognize a contract or they can resume even if the specific words vary as well. So pattern based for structured data, the AI driven context is set to be for unstructured. So joining hands, it's going to be a complete coverage for you. The other way that we do is that the sensitive information types that you need to know, SIT, where I have been speaking about, right? The SIT is our first line of defense for identifying the structured data that we have. So they use predefined patterns to detect the specific information, things like, as I said, credit card numbers, social security numbers that you have, or the passport IDs, something like that. And the other thing which I said, the pattern matches. So let's go dive deeper. I'm gonna make sense about. I want to show you quickly on the screen, right, where it works around and how it looks like, right. So let's go ahead. We will see how this information type works, how we can create a keyword dictionary, and I'm gonna be definitely sharing this slide where I have more of things to let you know. Probably let me say about the built-in custom SITs that we have, right? Comparing them, we have the built-in SIT, and we do have like custom SIT. So I will share the slide where you can go later. You can surf about like the diving deeper more about the keyword dictionary and the SITs that we have here. So let's go with a demo on creating and managing the sensitivity labels, right? So let's start here. Uh, I would say let me go with a browser. Give me a minute. Yes. So here we go. And let me try logging in. I'm going to give you a quick tour about how the sensitivity label works, okay, on the Purview environment. So let me log in with my account here, admin account, and followed by that, the password for the same. So let me give up the password to sign in. So consider I'm going to work for creating and managing the sensitivity labels, right? I'm in a modern sensitivity label framework to strengthen the data protection across the organization. So we're going to create and publish sensitivity label groups. We'll make sense about how the labels are set to be classified, protecting the content, including the encryption, auto labeling, and let's even say the double key encryption that we have as well. Depends on the time, but then I will also give you a quick write up. Once when we share the recording too. So here is how the Purview portal looks like. You might be familiar with this if you have been already working with Purview. And to do this, I can say, oops, I would say, yeah, get started and let's close these things. I could go to the settings, right? And there you can find information protection. So I'm going to enable the support for sensitivity labels here. And here in the information protection settings, let's make sure that this has to be turned on, right? I have this already turned on, but then just letting you know that you need to go to the settings, and for the information protection, you need to make sense that you need to turn on the co-authoring files with the sensitivity labels there. And if this is done, you have successfully enabled the support for sensitivity labels. So this is set to be for the files on SharePoint and the OneDrive, right? And then we can try creating a label. So it will create a label group to organize the internal sensitivity labels. The label groups will act as containers for, let's say, for related labels like department or business unit classifications there. So let's go back here to the solutions, right? And I'm just landing at on the same information protection again. And here on the left side, you can find sensitivity labels. So this is exactly where you go across. You're going to create a sensitivity label group. So let's say I would probably delete this. I already have this. So let me delete this and then let you know how we can go with this thing. You could, okay, in the meantime, at the backend, you can see, you have like general, you have confidential, highly confidential. So we have like, the labels that we have done. And at top of that, we can even try, letting some sub labels to be created at top of it. So let me refresh this once. Okay, getting loaded. There we go. okay, I have these things, but no worries. I can always go. I can say I need to create a label group. And this time, let me say it's going to be for Purview days. So let's make it the name as PD internal, right? Purview days internal. And then, and this is going to be again, I'm going to create an internal group, right, for the Purview days. And let's make a description for this. See, the label group is going to be on a priority, which is set to be highest. And let's set a description for the user saying that, hey, this is going to be internal sensitivity label then, right? And I will also give a description for the admins saying that it's internal sensitivity label group for, let's say, Code Sizzler, for example. And then clicking on next. And, we can review the configurations, whatever we have given, and say create label group to get this created then. So this is something that you have created a label group for internal use. So this group helps you to manage the related labels for security, for specific departments, or let's say even for the data categories there. Okay, once when this is done, you will get this, checkbox where you're going to say, are you going to create a label in this group, or you don't create a label yet then. So let me say I'm not going to be creating this. I'll come back later to this to work on a sublabel. So let's select this and say done. Well, now makes sense. I have something called PD internal. I'm trying to give a comparison for you. If you could see this, I have been working with this yesterday, right? So if you see this, I have an internal labeling which I have done, and just within that, I do have like something called employee data and the financial data that's set to be available. So the point is that I'm creating a sublabels here, right? I'm just making sense about how we can go ahead. We can try creating a sublabels that can work around for your organization. To come up with, all kind of classifications that you can do within your labels that you have defined across here. So if at all, if you want to do this, I can say, click here and you can say, create a label in this group. So it's going to be like a hierarchy. This label enforces encryption and the content markings, right, within the child label that you have created. So for example, I can say this is going to be, let's give a name, right? I can say employee data, which is for HR there, right? So then I would go ahead, I can say the same display name, and let's give a description as well. So this is again a label group. I'm in a sub-classification that I'm doing. Probably I can say one is for vendor, one is for, the internal employees that you have been working around with your team. So let's say this HR label is the default label for all specified documents in the HR department. I'm going to give up this. And then let's say this label is created in consultation with Miss, let's say Sharon, right, who is head of the HR department. And let's say contact her if you need to change the label settings. So let me give this, and then I can say, okay, this is all customized. I don't want to, we have laser time, so I don't want to stick onto these things. So let's say click on next. Duplicate name, what's that? Okay. Employee data, let me say PD, right, for HR. And now let's say next to get this added up. So here comes the scope for this label, right? This is highly important when you make sense about whether you're gonna make sense for the files and the emails, or you're gonna be doing it for the meetings as well. So I can set the label filterings to be done with the help of this. And then comes the next screen where you're gonna choose the protection settings for the labeled items, right? You select the, let me say you're gonna select the control access here, or you can say it applies for the content marketing, right? So let's go ahead. I can say it goes for control access and for the content marketing here. With that, I can say I'm going to be moving for the next. And in the access control, we can say configuring the access control, right? Like assigning the permissions who is going to let the users to decide on the permissions, right? And when the content gets expired, and allowing the offline access, let's say only for a number of days, and I can give it for some 15 days of time, something like that. And at top of that, I can also assign permissions. So let me say assign permissions, and we can add any authenticated users. So I can say any authenticated users who can go, who can assign the permissions, and let's click on save then. Okay, that's set to be on the access control. I can then go click on the next, where you can find the content marking. So we can enable this content marking where you can add a watermark then. So let me say custom text, and it can be internal use only. I'm just adding a watermark for that. Oops, yeah, internal use only, right? Giving up the font size and all those steps. And let's add a header as well. So let's say add a header, and that's again like, let's say it's going to be internal document that will be using on, and then adding a footer too. Let's go here, and I would appreciate to be on mute, please, just considering the recording that we are doing across. And if at all, if you have any questions or something, I can stick on later to it. Or you can even write it over the chat if you at all, if you have any questions. Let's make sense we maintain the ground rules that we're going to be on mute. So I can give the name of the same organization named contest, so because I have been creating this on the work account, or I can even simply go, I can say it's code Sizzler confidential, anything that comes across. And let's click on save. With that to be given, let's go for the next. And we have auto labeling for the files and emails. So let's say if you want to do this, you can just toggle the feature that you find here for whatever the files that gets fetched towards your Microsoft 365 ecosystem. You're going to set a label towards the same on what you get configured here. And then goes with the protection settings for the groups and sites. Say you are creating a SharePoint site or something, or the teams, right? Channels that you create. So you're going to set the protection again there. And with that, we go ahead, right? We're going to create the label there. So let's say create label with this, right? And here is where you get landed up with, you're going to have your sublabels, a sensitivity label that we have been creating there. So once again comes this point where you've been asked, you want to create a policy, or you want to publish the label to the user's apps thing. I'm not in a production, so let me say don't create a policy yet. This is a quick demo, so let's click on this and say done. So this is all together like where you have created a child label within the internal, remember I gave PD internal label group, right? So the label applies the encryption and content markings to, here in this scenario, it's HR documents, right? Making sensitive data easy to identify and protected by the policy then. So having that to be done, we can go to the policy labels then. So let's say I can set, like I can publish the labels for the same, right? So the point is pretty straight. I can sign in with any of let me say any of an employee account or something like that, and from there I can publish the labels. So let's say, see the point is I can go to the sensitivity labels and I can say I want to publish the labels here. Either I do it here, or if I have the admin access, I can do it even from, you allocate someone who is going to be an admin or something. They can also still try doing this. So let's choose the sensitivity labels to publish. And here over the search, I can simply say I need internal, right? Let's say internal, sensitivity labels. And the sensitivity labels to publish is that I should be having employee data or something. Employee data, no? Okay, let me search for it. Yeah, you see this? I have internal. I'm not sure why it was not labeling there, but then you can find it. I have internal or employee data. And here in this scenario, I tried giving up the name with PD. So let me click on this and say add. Right? You could find this PD internal or employee data that you find. And we can click on next to add the admin units here, right? You can assign the admin units. So the full directory, whoever has the admin rights, they can go across, they can try publishing this. And I'm going to publish this towards the users and groups who come across with this particular tenant then. And there we go with the policy settings. So this policy settings is where you're going to configure the policy for the labels that you have. whether the user is going to provide a justification for removing a label, or what kind of policy that you're going to set. You're going to have the users to be required to apply the labels for all the documents, emails, right? Or if I created a website. So it depends. Or even if you're working from a data point, let's say you're working from Fabric or Power BI report, do you want to add a labeled content or an unlabeled content to come up with? So those things can be configured over here. So having this to be done, I can simply go right. I have this published settings. I will leave it as default. So let me say next, and we could then go ahead saying we can apply a default label to the documents then. So applying a default label to the documents is that you can call up here. See, you have a default label. You can call it from here as well then, right? So that's set to be for the documents. Let me leave it as default. I can click on next then. And there we go with applying a default label to the emails, right? So let's again go across, leaving this to be default. So let me say we are going to maintain this as same as the document that you will be having it across, and coming across with your next part where you're going to label to the meetings and the calendar invites, right? So it makes sense. The sensitivity labels can be defined for each and every components that we try adding it up over here then. So having this to be done, uh, we can then go across. I told you that you can do this for the fabric or the data content as well. So I mean, like, I'm just leaving it blank, but then you people can always go, you can try configuring all these things. Okay. So it makes sense. Having this to be done, I can name the policy there. So let's say this is going to be for internal HR. Uh, to my understanding, I would say PD, which is your, purview days, PD employee data. And this HR label is to be applied to internal HR employee data then. So let's keep this added up. Employee data, uh, again, for my understanding, I'm just trying to add it up as it's going to be for the purview days there. So having this to be given, let's click on next. And so let me say I have almost like configured all the internal label groups that we need for the HR label. So the users can apply them to the HR documents, and makes sense. Once when you give up this, it's going to be taking up at least like say 24 hours, to reflect for the policies to the propagate across the services that you're going to be using across. So this is about all where you go, you create sensitivity labels, right? So I repeat, just wrapping up the steps. See, I've created something called Purview Days internal, and with that, I have some sub-labeling where I have been adding it up with all the employee data, like what the HR things to be applied then, and going across with all the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, calling up all the sensitivity labels to be added up there. Well, okay, I see something added up on the chat, but then give me time. I will stick on to the questions probably by the next time, for 5 minutes. Let me complete one another thing where I want to speak about configuring auto labeling here. So the auto labeling is said to be like, let's go back to this point that we have the sensitivity labels, and here I mean within the sensitivity labels, let's say I can take any of these things. As I said before, it needs 24 hours to get it propagated, right? Or it even happens even more faster. But then for a safety point, I will go to this internal. I'll say I'm going to create a label in this particular group. Okay. And there you can say that what's going to be, the auto labeling that you can add it across. Just for your understanding, if you want to fall into the same, I can go to the sensitivity labels, and here I can again say create a label in the group, right? So I will click on this, and let's say I'm going to create something called financial data there, right? And let's give this, and the description again, just same like before. So this content contains, financial data that must be labeled and protected. Okay. And with that, let's go to the admin. So again, let's say this label is used for um, content that includes sensitive financial identifiers. So having that to be said for the description, I would go again. I'm not giving up these label colors and all those stuffs. There's all like some decoratorial stuffs that you want to do. I don't want to waste time. And for my understanding, I'm going to be sticking towards the purview days. So let's say I'll go with PD purview days, right? And click on next to get this added up. So with this again, you're gonna do a auto labeling for the scene. So the auto labeling here is gonna be like you're gonna define the stack. Let's say this time you have the meetings. So let me again remove this. Say next, and we can accept the default that comes across, right? Please make sense here. This way the auto labeling comes for the files and emails. So let's enable this, and we can say you can detect the content, right? And we can add the conditions, right? So content contains. So I'm going to move across with this and say if it contains, some sensitive information or something like that. So let's say add sensitive information types. And if it's like credit card, remember I was discussing this over the deck, right? So let's say credit card number or something like routing, right? Let's say if you have some routing number or some bank IFSC or SWIFT code, right? Let's say SWIFT. Let's click on these things to be added up. And that goes with, the auto labeling to be done for any of these things. So let's make sense. Here you could again roll back. You can say you want to do a medium confidence or you want to go with a high level of confidence to be added up with all these things, right? So I repeat, one is for SWIFT code, right? And you can go across, as I said, I missed selecting it. Let me say credit card number. And as I said, routing as well. Let's select all these three things and say add. Can you see this? The credit card number goes with high confidence and then has the routing number, all those things, which are set to be with a medium confidence time. So having this to be given, I'm going to create a label. So scroll down, you can say automatically apply the label when it matches probably let's say a 16-digit credit card number or something like that, let's go ahead with that to be added up with all these things and say next to do the groups and the sites here. So I repeat, I have added all those things and I've created a label as well. And I would say automatically apply this towards, any of those things that gets initiated then. So this is about creating the auto labeling stuff, and you have the production settings. You can say you want to do it for the external users as well, right? We can configure those things, and finally we get landed up with a review over here. So you can review the policy, you can name the policy as well, right? And say create a label to get this to be added up again. So this is all about like you do something called auto labeling that works for you, right? And then again, you make sense that you want to publish it or you want to just keep it for the demo environment that we have here. Well, we do have something called double key encryption that we can work on, right? Let's say I can go for the sensitivity labels, and here you can find the internal sensitivity label that we created. Let's take this, right? And you can say create a label in the group again. And there, I want to close with this, right? So let me, I'm not going to be taking more of your time, but let me show you where we can do this. So I can say confidential, legal, that I'm going to give it as, and let's give the same display name as well. So this is a double key encryption that works, right? Like adding dynamic watermarking to protect the confidential legal content that you have as such. So here I would say use this label for highly sensitive, legal content that must be encrypted using DKE, right? I'm sorry for the typo. Yeah, using DKE. And let's say label configured. This is just for understanding, but then I will leave it for the default. Let's click on next. And here it goes again, like files, all those things. Let's not select meetings. I don't have permission for it. So let me give up this. And you have choose productions. Okay, let's select the control access, right? and then the access control. Let's say configure the access control settings and assign the permissions right now. And here is going to be like a number of days after the label is applied. Let's say 5 days this time. And allow offline access. For security feature, I'm saying that you should not allow this. And then let's say assign the permissions. Okay. And let's add users or groups. I can take my account itself. So my account is uh, admin at the rate something. Let me take a note of it. Give me a minute. Yeah, let's go for this and say, see, I can either say I have some legal team. I have created this before. So let me look for this legal team. Yeah. So I can select this legal team and all the people who just click onto this, right, they get added up. Or I can say if I have someone called Johnny in my team, I created these accounts before. So I can say add both of these groups or individual people that we have and click on save and we can assign the permissions for these people then. Right. So we get this to be added up and let's click on the next where I would go up. I can say I need to use auto labeling for the files and groups or what. So this is the previous feature that we have been speaking about, right? So let's go with the next again, right? And with that, I'm gonna be giving some custom text. Okay, I missed this, right? Let's say next control access. Oops, yeah. I want to go for the next again here. I gave up all these things. See, here is where you can do dynamic watermarking, right? We have this feature where you can use dynamic watermarking. And I can go customize the text, which is optional. I can go here and I can enter some text for this. So let's say I'm going to give it as confidential, right? And then select UPN timestamp, right? Getting this to be added up and we can save this. The other option is that which I told you, the dynamic key encryption, right? So this is where you can go. You can enter, probably if you have a URL for this, you can scroll down, you can do that here. Maybe let me say for an example, it's going to be like HTTPS, right? I can say code sizzler, DKE. If I have the APIs and all those steps to be added up, right? I can just get this added up, the documentation even, and let's say test. I'm making it simple, right? The URL for the DKE to be added up. And let's click on next to get this added. So this is the point where you go with something called double key encryption. So you can go, you can create, you can publish a child label using double key encryption and even the dynamic watermarking to be added up. So this label is where it's going to help you to restrict the access to authorized users and enforces the justification for downgrading the classifications there. So that's all together. Oops, I'm beyond the clock for a minute. Yes. So this is all together like where you go. You can try working with, the labels that we have. And yeah, so that's all about like how you can create and manage the sensitivity labels. Okay, couple of questions. Hi Rajesh, can the recordings be available for these sessions? Yes, we are going to be getting the recording. So what I would say is that keep an eye, right? Keep a tab to be open towards the LinkedIn page of us. You can follow me or you can follow Vignesh, right? We're going to be sharing, the recordings over the LinkedIn once when all these things are done and we have the editing to be done as well. It's going to be over the YouTube. You can keep a tab again open to be on the YouTube channel. I will share that with the URL over here once when my session is over and you can find the recording there. Hey, Vipul, we can apply labels only to Microsoft Word, PPT, Excel, emails, but not to CSV or PDF or any other non-Microsoft. Yes, that's right. Whatever comes, see, if at all, if you're calling from a third party and if you have an endpoint that has been exposed, you can call the endpoint over here, right? Say you're running it on a S3 bucket, you can call the endpoint over here and there again, you can add watermarks or you can add sensitivity labels for that. So that's possible. But it's not like a direct connector. Hope you're getting it, right? You need to come across with an endpoint to be opened up. And that's the only way that you can get it configured for the third party then. Hi, Atira. During the label downgrades, users will be presented with default options to choose as justification along with the text box for the downgrade, for example. Is there a way to replace this default option only with the No, unfortunately, that's not something that we have with the purview for now. We cannot do this. We need to go with the defaults that has been provided with this, Adira. Well, all right. Thanks for that. I'm going to be available here, and if at all, if you have any questions or something, feel free to let me know. Right? Uh, yeah. Hi. Are there better PowerShell repositories to perform inventory? Yes, we do have. We do have a official GitHub repo, which is for the purview is itself, right? I'll serve through the URL, and we'll give you the related PowerShell scripts to be added up over the chat. Then I'll do that right away after this session. Or you can even reach me over the LinkedIn so that I can. I mean, like we have the next speaker waiting for us, so I want to stop this over here. If you have any questions or something, feel free to reach me. I'm going to be available here over. I mean, not on this chat. Let's not bother the next speaker. You can reach me over, LinkedIn, or you can drop me an email over here, right? So that's all about me. Thank you so much. Thanks for all your time on joining us. I wanna put this once again. You can scan the QR code and you can connect with me if you have any questions or if you want to discuss more about purview and security over there. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. And the next session is going to be from Rashid, which is going to be on Microsoft Purview audit, the essentials and the investigations that he will be discussing with a deep dive. And I'm going to be handing this over to him then. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining. Have a happy learning more.
Thank you. Thank you.